How to be an audiobook narrator, step 1. Actually, this is more like step 0. Hi, I'm an audiobook narrator. Here are my credentials. Chapter 1. And people ask me all the time how to get into audiobooks. So I'm going to give you one step that you can do right now, today. Anybody can do it for free to get you started on the path to being an audiobook narrator. Are you ready? First thing you're going to do is find a book. I don't care how you get it. Ideally, it's a book you feel kind of neutral on. I want you to take that book and bring it into a closet and lock yourself in there. The next step is to read the first chapter of that book out loud to yourself, the whole way, all the way through, start to finish. If you make a mistake, you need to go back and start at the beginning of that sentence. Just one chapter. I'm sure you can do it. In fact, you should pause this video and go do it right now. I have no way of knowing if you're going to do that, but I'm just going to choose to believe. Okay, did you do it? Great. Now that you've done that, I want you to imagine doing that 30 more times. Or if you picked a book with very short chapters, imagine doing that for 6 to 8 hours straight. And then the next day, doing that again. And the next day, doing that again. And the next day, probably doing that again. Then we get to factor in the editing layer. If you're recording on your own, you're going to do something called a punch and roll, which means every time you make a mistake, you're going to pause your recording, you're going to go back to where you made the mistake, and you're going to record over it. Or if you're lucky enough to do a free roll where someone else is going to edit it, you probably will have a director in your ear. So you need to be ready for this experience. Brandon looked across the parking lot. It was a desolate afternoon.
Brandon, it's Brandon, by the way. You missed, it's Brandon.
Yeah, sorry, Brendan, not Brandon, okay. Brendan looked across the room.
Parking lot, not room, parking lot.
Sorry. Brendan looked across the parking lot. You get the idea. So, if after watching this video, you're still like, hell yeah, this sounds great, I want to do it, congratulations, you have completed the beginning step to becoming an audiobook narrator, which is figuring out if you actually want to do the work. Like, everybody loves the idea of walking a red carpet, but do you actually want to audition? It'd be cool to do a sick guitar solo on stage, but do you actually want to practice the guitar? It can be a pretty tough task. You're essentially playing a rhythm game all day, but with your mouth. I shouldn't be allowed to describe things. It's a fun idea to think that you've narrated an audiobook, especially if you're an avid reader. But do you actually like the work? This is a great way to figure that out. So that's my tips on becoming an audiobook narrator. Step 0. Good luck out there. Bye.